Convicts, the series. Season 1, Episode 1. Scene 1. Exterior, Earth from space, day. The Earth slowly rolls under the camera, showing the bright city grids of Antarctica and Australia. A narrator's note briefly lists the world's stats: name, population, jump height, orbit time, day length, and number of moons. There is a bridge connecting Sydney to Auckland, and the sea levels have risen because the poles have melted. There are artificial circular islands all over the place, or more likely, island-sized vessels. Holograms animate across the sky which read, "Happy New Year, presented by Coca-Cola." Space cruisers of multiple designs fly over the planet. One of them passes close enough that we can see rich people having a party. On board, we can see the timer counting down and hear people inside the force field. 10, 9, 8. As the ship moves out of the way, we can see the Coca-Cola logo presenting the rest of the countdown animation in holograms all over the sky. Location, Earth. The year, 2999. Sounds like the price of a cheap pair of jeans, doesn't it? Another cruise ship flies past as the people shout, "Happy New Year!" On board, we see the same hologram as all over the planet. "Happy New Year, drink Coca-Cola." The ship passes. Location Earth, the year 3000. The Coca-Cola holograms across the planet animate into a live transmission from the rather young-looking Secretary General of the Helios United Government, or HUG, based in Antarctica. There are penguins in the background wearing party hats and catching fish treats. "On behalf of the Helios United Government, I'd like to wish all colonies a happy and prosperous new year. Praise be to Abba." Futuristic light shows cover the planet with holographic confetti and disco balls. That was the Secretary General. She's in charge of all 26 colonies in the solar system, or Helios system, as they say. It's her 92nd birthday next week. She looks kind of young, doesn't she? That's because she, along with many other rich and famous people, inject a product called Eternity into their armpits every 6 months to keep them youthful and, better still, regeneratively immortal. The camera moves past orbiting space hotels to Earth's moon Luna, which has been completely terraformed and shows the outside of a massive, expensive facility. This elixir of youth, this Eternity serum, is manufactured exclusively by the highly successful pharmaceutical company Zukastra, right here on Earth's moon Luna. The camera flies through the facility, showing cages of animals ranging from monkeys to giraffes being tested, as well as scientists in lab coats holding up vials of glowing white liquids with rainbow auras. The secret formula is a well-guarded secret, but I can tell you that their key ingredient, an element that is not shown in any official periodic table, an element called aura with 165 protons and the chemical symbol A, can only be found in one place in the Helios. The camera flies past the worlds of Mars, Ceres, Ganymede, Callisto, Io, Europa, Titan, Rhea, Iapetus, Dione, Tethys. The narrator's note briefly lists each world's stats: name, population, jump height, orbit time, day length, and number of moons, and finally stops over the penal colony of Cassini on Enceladus, with snow blasting into space from the geysers 20 kilometers away. Scene 2. Exterior. Cassini penal colony from space. Day. Super. Cassini penal colony. Enceladus, AD 3000. We look down at Cassini from space with Saturn filling the sky. There is a dim roar from the crowd coming from inside the megadome. Scene 3. Interior. Megadome. Day. A 13-year-old girl in a white jumpsuit falls hard from the sky and wipes the blood from her nose. She looks up and sees the boy who punched her 30 meters in the air, slowly descending with bloodied fists held high as the crowd cheers. The girl spits blood out of her mouth, clenches her fists, and launches herself at the boy, who is still distracted, and punches him in the acorns from behind as hard as she can. As he leans forward, clutching his jewels, she wraps her arm around his throat and begins to choke him. The crowd roars approvingly as they watch close-up video on the force field ceiling of the dome. As he flails, she flips him upside down, knees him in the spine, and kicks him in the back of the head, sending him spinning out of control until he is above the artificial gravity of the crowd boundary fence. Now he is weighted differently and falls like a stone and lands face first on the fence with only the top of his head inside the arena. His body explodes over the audience and his teeth scatter like tic-tacs across the bleachers. A spectator with bad teeth picks one up and shows it to everyone excitedly. "I got one! I got one!" The teeth and the top of the boy's head that are inside the fighting arena gently float to the ground. "What a comeback! Her parents must be so proud!" The ground inside the arena changes colour to signify that gravity has been switched back on. In the foreground, the parents of the girl run out to put on her dressing gown and embrace her with words of encouragement, while 4 maintenance workers in yellow jumpsuits walk boredly over to the boy and chuck him in a yellow body bag. Other maintenance workers mop the blood from the field. The arena and stadium seating has been set up in front of the presidential palace. This building has the list of compassionate teachings of the first historical president emblazoned in large letters across the front of the 1-kilometre-high entry doors. Many of these have been poorly edited since the new regime, like in Animal Farm. On the rooftop balcony, laid out with delicious food, wine and comfortable seating for the leaders, we close up on the announcer, who is standing in front of them holding a microphone. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, etc." A pretty spectator with nice makeup and nail polish turns her face, and we see they have a full beard and thick eyebrow on the other side of their face, with hairy knuckles on the other hand. "This match is something very special. 13 years in the making. This next competitor is none other than the grandson of the great Roscoe Starblazer." The crowd cheers. We zoom out and see the giant statue on top of the presidential palace. "The hero who freed this world from the clutches of the evil Helios government." The announcer points to the observer ship stationed in orbit. The crowd boos and looks up at the ship, giving it the middle finger. Scene 4, Interior, Observer, Day. We see the city of Cassini from space out the window, with multiple screens showing close-ups of the announcer and the spectators. 2 hug officers, Dougie and Darren, sit back in their chairs drinking beer with their feet on the console, watching the show casually. "Flirt you too." Scene 5. Interior, Megadome, Day. "And gave us our independence!" The crowd cheers. One of the spectators spills a bit of his drink onto a big guy beside him, who looks at the droplet of liquid on his leg, back to the guy who spilled it, then punches him in the face, so he falls off the bleachers at full gravity to the ground below. 4 yellow maintenance workers trudge over to the body, chuck it in a yellow body bag, and drag it away. "As the grandson of our first great president, this boy is practically royalty." The microphone is grubbed out of the announcer's hand as the announcer is shoved off the 1-kilometre-high rooftop by someone whose back faces us. It is the current president of Enceladus, Messiah Fartypants, who clicks his fingers at his aide, Nonk, to press the button on the holocam. "Your Excellency, press the button on the holocam." Nonk presses it, and nothing happens. Nonk shrugs apologetically. "The other button, you incompetent clagsack!" Nonk presses it, and a giant projection of the president appears in the middle of the arena. "For the past 40 years, as president of this great independent colony, I, more than anyone, have grieved the purely accidental loss of my good friend and great hero, Roscoe Starblazer, whose magnificent statue never ceases to cast a gigantic shadow over all of us, each and every single day." What a hero he was. Let us pray that Abba is watching over his unfortunate dead soul. Messiah dismissively makes the sign of the disco ball, which is a 2-handed finger touching to create the sphere, followed by jazz hands, representing the light reflection. The one-hand version is a fist with one jazz hand, which Messiah makes because his other hand is holding the microphone. The crowd also make the sign of the disco ball. Since Aura was discovered back in 61, Enceladus has thrived, not just as a penal colony where the wealthy colonies dump all their filth, he gestures to the crowd, but also as a successful mining colony. With these trials you are witness to today, we see meaningless, pitiful lives, he gestures towards all the children standing in line waiting to fight, transformed into useful workers who will keep this colony thriving. Nobody applauds. Officers at the boundary line cock their weapons. The crowd applauds weakly. And so, Tommy Starblazer, or whatever your name is, I know that your grandfather would be so proud to see you at the trials today, winning all your heats and rising to become an officer. The crowd cheers. Messiah clicks his fingers as he looks down towards the event organisers, who are positioned beside the lineup of 13-year-olds. There is another line of kids on the other side of the arena. Gravity! The organisers flick a switch, and the arena floor changes colour. Messiah sits back down as Nonk hands him a wine, which Messiah ungratefully knocks out of his hand before pointing angrily at the other wine, which Nonk immediately fetches. At the front of the line beside the organisers, Kid and Monique Starblazer shower their son, Johnny Starblazer, with praise. His little 11-year-old sister, Joni, looks up at him with awe. Everyone's been waiting for this day since you were born, son. Remember, when you go out there, wave to the crowd, let them know who you are, then crush your enemy, just like you have been in all your years of training. I will, Dad. I'm going to become a leader like you, and like Grandpa before you. He would be so proud of you, Johnny. I'm sure he's looking down from heaven right now. Don't get ahead of yourself. Today you become an officer, then someday you'll get promoted to leadership. Ooh. What is it, darling? That maintenance worker looked at me. Now, honey, you know the etiquette for when a maintenance worker walks by. Yes, Dad. She spits on the ground towards the maintenance worker, who lowers his eyes and continues sweeping. Kid, Monique, and Johnny spit too. You ready, son? Now go out there and show them what it means to be a Starblazer. Johnny runs into the arena, jumps 40 meters into the air, and performs a spectacular acrobatic somersault, twisting expertly while mesmerizing the crowd with his skills. The crowd cheers. While Johnny is in the air from the other side of the arena, a short dweeb kid is shoved into the fighting arena and, with no other option, fearfully walks and bounces clumsily in the low gravity, which he's never felt before, towards the center to begin the fight. The crowd laughs. A spectator munches on some horrible fabricated snacks. It's obvious he's going to win this one. The clumsy kid continues to make his way to the center like a tortoise, while the nimble, rabbit-like Johnny completes a quadruple twist and lands with an arrogant grin with a superhero punch to the ground. The crowd cheers. Johnny waves to his appreciative audience, who are chanting, "Starblazer, Starblazer, Starblazer." His father smokes a cigar with his arm over Monique's shoulder. He looks to Joni. One day that'll be you. Joni watches in awe and excitement. Right at that moment, the clumsy dweeb clenches his fist, closes his eyes, and punches Johnny weakly in the back of the shoulder, then immediately curls up into a fetal position on the ground. The chanting stops and is replaced by an ooh. The Starblazer family's mood changes from proud to shocked. Their mouths widen and the cigar falls from Kid's mouth. President Messiah covers his laughter as he gestures to Nonk to make an announcement. Nonk picks up the microphone and becomes the new announcer. Well, it appears that the dweeby kid executed a perfect, undefended first strike against Starblazer. That makes the dweeby kid the winner, who goes through to the next heat, and Starblazer... Beluza! Messiah looks up at the giant statue towering above him, while barely containing his laughter and gorging himself on fresh grapes from earth. The leaders seated beside him look at each other awkwardly.
The loser! Starblazer out of the trials after only one heat! What an upset!
Johnny touches his shoulder, looks in shock at the crowd, then down at the dweeb, who is still in the fetal position. The dweeb, who suddenly realized what has happened, unfurls and stands up uncertainly, then timidly raises his fist in the air for victory. The crowd cheers. Johnny, confused, slowly begins to walk back towards his family. Meanwhile, the dweeb is raising his second fist in the air. The crowd cheer even more loudly. The organizers at the control desk go through the motions of resetting the arena for the next match. The dweeb, ecstatic that he is not as weak and worthless as he once believed, power jumps into the air as high as he can to 45 meters with a big smile on his face and fists held high in glorious victory. I did it! I feel so alive! The arena floor changes color to signify that the artificial gravity has been switched back on as Johnny approaches his family with his head bowed sorrowfully. I don't know what happened. You received an undefended first strike, that's what happened. You can do something, right, Dad? In the background, the dweeb falls at full speed from 45 meters high with a soft pop, and maintenance workers boredly drag their feet over to the chunks to put them in a yellow body bag. Who are you calling Dad? You're no son of mine. You're a loser. Mom? Oh, Johnny, I can't even look at you. That's right, it's bad etiquette. All right, guys, one huck and then we're out of here. Hey, that one was pretty good. Kid spits on the ground. Monique doesn't build up her spit enough and it drips onto her blouse. Oh no, my favourite blouse. Abba Christ, Monique. Do you know how many rations that top cost me? You'll have to extract it now, Mum. It's got maintenance to stain all over it. I guess I could just flush it. They leave. You, move through to processing. Do you know who I am? You're nobody now. Disgraceful. We'll see about that. Johnny walks with his head held high past all the other kids in line, who whisper to each other as he passes until he gets to the processing desk. Name? Starblazer. Johnny Starblazer. Processing looks up at Johnny. Of course. Grandson of our great hero. I was just a kid during the Great Uprising of 49, but I remember he was a great man. Such a pity his grandson turned out to be a lowly maintenance worker. That's not happening. There's been a mistake. Oh, there's no mistake. Your life's all about Sea Tower from now on, but out of respect for the late president, I'll do you a solid and give you a cell with a view. A bunch of inmates fell into the plume catcher this morning. Chunks everywhere, from what I heard, so this cell just became available. Processing turns to her assistant, Debbie. Debbie, give this kid cell C582614. Cell? You mean with prisoners? Worst of the lot. No. You see this building behind you? That's where I live, in the presidential palace, with the leaders. Can you say the word leader? I'm with them. I'm going home. You're going home to Prison Tower C, where the maintenance workers live. Can you say maintenance worker? Be in your tower each day before curfew, or you'll be deducted rations. The Megadome is completely off limits unless you have been assigned a shift here. Do not look any officer or leader directly in the eye and obey everything they ask you to do, or you will be deducted rations. Here is your outfit. A nerdy kid with broken glasses, Flint, lines up behind Johnny, waiting to be processed. I'm not wearing that. Make sure your outfit is clean and you arrive at your shift on time, or we will be deducted rations. Yeah, we get the point. Is this a one-size-fits-all situation, or do you need to take my measurements? Wait your turn, Four Eyes. Don't worry, Johnny. I'm from Tower C. I'll take you over there. How do you know you'll be put in Tower C? I just got smacked in the face by some crazy pale. Didn't even make it past the first heat, just like you. Hey, maybe we'll be sharing a cell. A fat kid, Chunk, lines up behind Flint. Hello, I'm Chunk! Flint covers his ears. No, I won't be stepping his foot inside a dirty cell. A security officer, Thugly, approaches. I'm afraid you don't have a choice, C582614M1. Is there a problem? You have no idea who you're messing with, Sunshine. Johnny points his fingers in her face and thugly zaps Johnny in the back of the neck with his obedience wand so that Johnny shakes from electric shock. Thugly catches his limp body and throws him over his shoulder.
Don't worry, I'll teach him.
Hello, I'm Chunk.
Ow, aber Christ, I know.
Thugly picks up Johnny's uniform. What do you want him?
Take him to his cell. Wait, we gotta stamp him.
Thugly holds out Johnny's right wrist and Debbie stamps in an implant and a tattoo that says C582614M1. Flint holds out his left hand to accept his outfit and his right wrist to get stamped. Chunk copies him. Processing hands the two boys folded yellow jumpsuits.
Debbie, stick these two kids in the same cell. Then we only need one more.
Debbie stamps the kids' wrists. Flint winces. Ow, you're mean!
You're moving to Cat Tower C, kid. You don't even know the meaning of the word.
Security starts walking with Johnny slumped over his shoulder. Flint begins to follow.
Where are we going?
Like she said, Tower C. Why are you shouting?
Mama said to be tough, so I'm ready for the big fight.
Didn't you just fight?
Not yet. I went to the front of the line, and when I got there I didn't know what to do, so I came back.
Holy slop, you were supposed to fight. Too late now, he's been stamped. He would have lost anyway, look at him.
I would not have lost.
Why do they call you Chunk?
Mama says because it's got big bones.
Yeah, and I bet your mama is real skinny too after you took all her rations.
Mama has big bones too.
Sounds like the milkshakes and space burgers don't fall far from the tree.
I'm not allowed to have space burgers. They won't print.
Me neither. You have to have an officer in your family to get those kinds of treats. Don't worry, Chunk. We're cellmates now, and from what I hear, we've got a room with a view.
Scene 6. Interior living room. Day. Super. 19 years later. We see the view Flint was talking about through the window. Saturn, in all its gigantic glory in the sky, is mostly blocked by the butt of the giant statue in the middle of the colony. We pan around to see Flint, now 32 years old, sitting on the sofa, assembling a virtual puzzle on the holovision. This is the default couch cam frame for the sitcom. There is banging going on downstairs. Flint ignores it. In the background, we see a large yellow shape quickly fly up the elevator tube. Banging continues now from upstairs. Flint continues to ignore it. The yellow shape comes down the tube into the living room. It's Chunk, now a massive bodybuilder. He walks over to Flint, out of breath.
I still can't see around it.
I told you, you have to be further to the side. Cut to Scene 7, Interior, Tower C 582 Corridor, Day. Johnny, now 32, is running, being chased by a large, dirty prisoner from the main tower elevator. He runs through the 200-metre recreation area, interrupting the spaceball game, and continues running for his life along the yellow floor, past all the cells on his level, towards his cell, and dives headfirst into what looks like a grey concrete wall, but is actually the force field entry to his cell under a sign that says C582614, just as the man chasing him swings a sling in circles above his head and launches it at Johnny. It automatically flies towards his right wrist, blocking his ID implant from working. Johnny is halfway through the force field entry wall and is now stuck, half in and half out of the corridor, unable to escape. Cut to Scene 8, Interior, Living Room, Day. Chunk is busily trying to press his face against the window in the furthest corner, impossibly trying to get a clear view of Saturn behind the statue.
Help! He's coming to get me!
Flint doesn't stop working on the puzzle to look up. Who's coming to get you?
Ah, he's some crazy guy with a bung eye and a beard. What are you doing in the wall, Johnny? Come inside where it's warm. Beep is making hot chocolate.
Why is he chasing you?
He thinks I stole his rations.
And did you? Flint clicks the final piece of the virtual puzzle into place. The holovision says, perfect score, new world record. He stands up and turns to face Johnny.
Did I what? Ah, he's got me. Unlock the entryway, quick. Okay.
Chunk begins to point his hand towards the force field entry. Flint turns to Chunk to gesture no. Nuh-uh-uh.
Okay.
Did you steal somebody's rations?
I don't even know the guy. Ah, my hand is wet.
Yeah, that sounds like crazy old Frothy, all right.
Crazy old Frothy? You mean you know this lunatic? Ah, my arm.
Don't worry about the froth. He probably just wants to lick you.
Lick me? Ah, he's licking me. You dirty flirt, get off me. Flint, unlock this flirking entry.
Why don't you simply walk through? You know how entries work, don't you, Starblazer?
I can't. It closed on me for some reason. There's something locked around my implant.
Oh, That must be the neutralizer cuff I gave to Frothy.
You gave it to him? Why? He's licking me!
Because we don't want thieves living in our cell. There are enough criminals in this colony as it is. Isn't that right, Chunk?
Yeah, there are lots of bad people.
But I'm not a thief!
Well, I'm sure you can work that out with Frothy when he's finished licking you. Flint goes to sit back down.
Wait! All right! I stole some of your rations!
Why?
To fabricate a white cake for Todd's mother.
That's very noble of you. Why didn't you use your own rations to do that?
I tried, but I didn't have enough of the right elements. Todd was always going on about how much his mum loved white cake, that he had special memories watching the sun pass behind the plumes through the window of their family cell as a child. When she came to pick up his things with security yesterday morning, you weren't here, so I stole some of your rations and made her one. Please open the field, he won't stop licking.
I see. Well, under normal circumstances, I would make you pay me back with 10% interest plus double for the thievery. But given the sentimentality I feel in relation to Todd's unexpected departure, I am happy to have contributed towards the white cake, even though you neglected to mention that you stole my rations and then lied about it. I can simply be at peace knowing that Frothy has the worst oral hygiene of anyone in Cassini. Flint lifts his right hand to point at the entryway and presses the palm of his hand with his fingers. The force field opens. Johnny falls through and the corridor becomes visible. Johnny rips the cuff off his wrist and throws it hard at Frothy.
You filthy gronk!
He turns to Flint.
I'm sorry for stealing your slop. I'm taking a flirking shower.
Johnny heads to the elevator tube and angrily goes up to his room. Froth throws the neutralizer cuff to Flint, who catches it. Frothy salutes Flint with a toothless smile, and Flint seals the entry with a hand gesture. Flint looks at the filthy neutralizer cuff in his hand and feels disgusted. Chunk is doing bicep curls at the fitness station. Chunk, catch! Flint throws the cuff to Chunk, who drops the dumbbell on his foot to catch the cuff. Give that to Beep for disinfection. I'm going to take a shower.
Okay.
Flint walks to the elevator to go to his room. And don't touch anything. The elevator door closes.
Okay.
Chunk looks down towards his foot.
Ow.
Cut to Scene 9. Exterior plume catcher, day. Miners with red protective gear, scanning devices and handheld vacuum filters that attach to backpacks search the snow for traces of aura, while others work the giant plume filtration machine. One miner thinks he sees something falling from the sky. In the background, a miner in red is yelling to a maintenance worker in yellow that the problem seems to be down there. And in the background, the worker climbs into the machine and is exchanged for red blood and guts that spray out everywhere. Yep, that's fixed it. The miners in the background give each other the thumbs up and keep working, while the yellow maintenance workers clean up the carnage. Our focus, however, remains on the miner in the foreground, who is walking towards the thing that he saw falling from the sky. We see an invisible shape, made visible only by the snow landing on it and its footprints leading away and hiding behind some equipment. The miner doesn't notice this. Instead, he finds a silver tiara with a green orb in it. He looks at it through his protective suit, then holds it up to show the other miners further away. Found something! He begins to walk back towards them. We pan to the equipment where the creature was hiding and see a small handprint with little footprints leading towards the colony. Scene 10. Interior living room, day. Johnny and Chunk sit on the couch watching Chunk's favourite propaganda cartoon. Flint is working on a new invention behind them, with sparks flying at the dining bench. The cartoon shows the president as a superhero. 40 years of strength. 40 years of commitment. 40 years of President Messiah Fottipants. The cartoon hologram shows the president looking off towards Saturn, replacing the face on Roscoe Starblazer's statue with the Enceladus flag blowing in the breeze behind him. Chunk claps excitedly.
Again!
You know this is for kids, right? The elevator door opens and Beep enters holding a tray. He rolls over to Flint. Your quantum spectralizer. Flint takes it and keeps working. Beep also places a hot chocolate on his table, which Flint ignores. I have calculated a new formula for hot chocolate based on Chunk's available element rations and synthesized these beverages, each with a liquid temperature of 70 degrees Celsius. The mugs were fabricated using basic ceramic elements and should be comfortable for human hands with an external temperature of... Mute! Beep's mouth continues to move, but with no sound coming out. He glares at Johnny angrily.
Yay, hot chocolate!
I doubt it. Everything here tastes like chalk. Luckily for those of us who never enjoyed all the benefits of the privilege dome, we can't tell the difference. Chunk takes a mug and sips it.
Yummy! Here, Johnny, try some. It's really good.
Chunk hands the last mug to Johnny, who sips it without delay and puts it down immediately on the coffee table. Chalk! Suddenly, the room starts flashing red and an alarm blares through the speaker system. Flint calmly finishes welding and places his hands flat on the dining bench. Johnny sits on the floor and places his hands flat on the table. What the flirk do they want this time? Undoubtedly, this will be Todd's replacement.
This is security. Place your palms flat on the nearest surface. We are entering your cell.
Chunk runs back and forth with his mug in his hand, trying to find the nearest flat surface, then presses his palm flat on Beep's tray. The mug drops onto his foot, and the hot chocolate burns his legs.
Ow.
The entryway warms open, and the first security guard, Security 1, enters dressed in a blue jumpsuit. He presses a button on his wrist, and the red lights and alarm stop. He looks at Beep, who is facing away from him.
Are you the floor monitor? What are you doing in this cell?
Beep's mouth moves, but no sound comes out.
Beep doesn't like it out there. Too many baddies.
Silence, inmate. I was talking to the robot. Floor monitor.
Beep turns to face security. Chunk walks sideways with Beep's rotation so his hands remain flat on the tray.
You, Gigantor, stop moving.
Security switches on his obedience wand, which glows blue with electricity. As Beep tries to speak while muted, Chunk, who now has his back to the security worker, attempts to use ventriloquism to speak for the robot.
I am a robot.
I know you're a robot. I asked what you're doing here.
I am holding a tray.
I can see that. Tray with a giant hunk of maintenance slop all over it. That's pretty funny. Hey, Michaels, get in here. Check this out.
A second security officer, Security 2, enters, wheeling in a tough female prisoner dressed like a futuristic punk, Brace. The prisoner is strapped to a vertical trolley with a muzzle like Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. There is a folded yellow jumpsuit hanging over the handle.
Check out what this robot is holding. Maintenance slop. Ha!
Moist. Security 1 presses a button on his hollow bracelet to read job info.
Anyway, since your cellmate C582614M4 got minced to pieces by the regolith filter 3 days ago, this cell has a spare room.
His name was Todd.
What was that?
His name was Todd.
Whatever, shut up, robot. This Pale is his replacement. Apparently she killed 33 men on Titan for looking at her the wrong way and ate their brains. So have fun.
Johnny takes his hands off the coffee table, stands up and turns to face them. The security guards fire up their wands. Johnny sees the scary prisoner.
Ah, but Christ!
We're all generational here. This is not a criminal cell.
Well, maybe you should have thought about that before your cellmate decided to become pasta sauce. I don't call this Tower C for nothing. When we leave, we'll count to 10 and the restraints will unlock. That'll give you time to escape to your rooms until your next shift.
They walk out the entryway and it seals behind them. The cellmates look at each other and then towards Brace. Scary music builds.
Ready? We're going to count to 10 to give you mopes a chance to escape. Are you ready? 10! Come on, let's go.
Steam hisses as the restraints are released. Chunk moves behind Beep for safety. Flint moves behind Chunk. Johnny moves behind Flint. The camera shows a boot stepping down off the trolley through the steam. Then another. The prisoner walks over to Flint's untouched hot chocolate. She takes the muzzle off her face, drops it on the floor, and takes a sip as she continues to walk towards Beep. The three housemates walk away as a train, holding one another's shoulders, over to the sitting area by the coffee table. Brace ignores them and speaks to the robot. Hot chocolate, right? Beep's mouth moves but makes no sound. Chunk goes to speak, but the boys cover his mouth. They slap each other a bit as they gesture that everyone remains silent. Did you fabricate this, robot? Beep's mouth moves, but no words come. Brace walks around the back of Beep's head, figures out the circuitry, and restores his speaking function by removing a chip. She holds it in her hand. It has wires sticking out of it. And so I used 85 grams of strontium to compensate for the lack of calcium. Oh good, I can talk. Flirk you, Johnny! The scary music ends. Which one of you is Johnny? The scary music resumes. The other two boys step away, leaving Johnny cowering alone. Johnny slowly raises his hand. Are you the one who modified this droid with an ankylosing chip?
Flint calls it the shut up chip.
The scary music ends. Brace tilts her head to assess whether or not Chunk is special needs. And what's your name, big guy?
Hello, I'm Chunk.
So we've got Johnny, Chunk, and Flint. Plus whatever this floor monitor's name is.
That's Beep. We don't know what his real name is.
I am compliance droid C582SD4016, originally constructed as a science droid in 2311 to investigate the surface properties of Enceladus and construct basic human habitation. My model was tasked with assessing the viability of a long-term settlement. Brace puts the chip in the back of his head so he is muted again, then slowly begins stepping towards the window near where they're standing. They all scuffle out of the way. She looks out the window, investigating their vantage point. And I'm guessing that sloppy timecode scrambler on the table belongs to Four Eyes? I work with the parts I can find. Brace walks towards the outer edge of the window, still looking out to assess their view. She doesn't look at them. The boys jump on the couch and run along to get completely out of her way. So you couldn't find a simple RD403 circuit board inside any of the 6 fabricators inside this cell? Or in any of the corridors? Why would I break a perfectly good fabricator when the RD391 circuit works just as well? The 403s have been superfluous circuit bloats since the old F3 models, everyone knows that. Each of the F8 models I've seen around here have 9 of them. The 391 circuit sends out a 22 MHz signature wave every time it's activated. That would make your surreptitious device rather useless, wouldn't you say? Brace turns her attention to him and walks over. He lowers himself onto the edge of the couch and then onto the floor as she stands over him. It's against regulation to vandalize colony equipment. We're not all criminals here. And yet you have commandeered the floor monitor as your slave, gagged him with a mute chip, and are now building a timecode scrambler so you don't have to go to work. Lucky the blue suits don't know what time of day it is.
It's 96 o'clock. It says so on the wall.
You're very clever, Chunky. Who taught you to read the time?
Mama taught me. Mama says when the arrow reaches the top, it's not 120 o'clock, it's 0 o'clock.
Even though your moon only has 118 kiloseconds in a day. Genius. 118.38.
The red bit is where it jumps. Sometimes I watch it for ages so I don't miss it, and it's your moon too now.
Sounds like so much fun. You guys got anything else to drink here aside from chalk?
I know how to make water. Usually Beep makes it for me, but I can make it. Watch, I'll show you.
Gumdrops. Chunk runs excitedly over to the living room fabricator. Johnny is seated beside Beep at the bench press. So what's your story, Verbosity?
Water.
A glass of water appears and he carries it excitedly towards Brace, spilling it the whole way. He hands her an empty glass. She folds her arms.
It's okay, I know how to make more.
He runs back towards the fabricator. Brace looks back towards Johnny. Is it true you killed 33 men and ate their brains?
Muesli. Oh, no, I mean water.
The fabricator gives him what he asked for. Chunk very carefully balances the bowl of muesli and water back to Brace. Brace continues to stare at Johnny. Johnny returns her gaze. Chunk hands her the bowl.
Here, sorry, it might have some muesli in it.
Brace takes the bowl while maintaining her gaze at Johnny, sculls it, and lets the muesli spill down her top. She wipes her mouth with her sleeve and hands the bowl out for Chunk to take back. He takes it. Maybe. Johnny slowly stands up. Well, my experience tells me that no amount of complaining is going to get you evicted. So I might as well get used to living with a mass-murdering, brain-chomping, crazy-looking, intimidating freak punk pale with a weird variation of a South Titan-esque accent. No idea what your backstory is, where your parents are from, why you're so pissed off, or even what your name is. I'm sure I'll find out in the coming killer sex, days, years, and decades of this beautiful life that we're damned to spend here together in this cell, staring at each other. Brace begins to smile. She gestures towards Beep without looking away from Johnny and presses her palm with her fingers. Unmute. In 2961, when it was discovered that Enceladus was the only place in the Helios to contain the element aura. Administrator voice imprint authorization 6142831. Voice imprint accepted, Administrator. Flint begins to stand. What the flirk? Which is Johnny's room? Room 1 is on the top floor, closest to the elevator. That sounds good. Reassigned to inmate M4. What? Reassigned. Wait, stop! Well, Johnny, you got some real acorns to speak to me the way you did. You showed a lot of clag. We're going to get along just fine. Brace punches Johnny in the stomach and guides him as he sits back down on the workout bench. She pats him on the shoulder. Great to meet you. I'll leave your stuff in the elevator after I've had a few Zeds. Boys? Bod? She salutes them goodbye and walks over to the elevator. The door opens and she gets in. Name's Bryce, by the way. The elevator door closes. Of course it is.
Wow, Johnny, she said you had some real acorns. Do you think she liked my water?
I'm sure she loved it, Chunk. She's taken my flirking room! Yes, that was rather impressive. I wonder how she knew how to do that. Beep, which is Johnny's room? Inmate M1 currently has no room assigned. What? If she's taking my room, I'm taking Todd's old room. I'm not sure it works that way. Beep, who's in Todd's old room? Room 2 is currently unassigned. Assign it to me! Access denied. Please contact the administrator for help with your inquiry. This is bullslop! Beep, give me that room! Access denied. Please contact the administrator for help with your inquiry.
Wow, we got a new cellmate. I'm going to see if she needs any help getting settled.
Chunk starts towards the lift, then goes back to the coffee table.
Oops, almost forgot the hot chocolate.
Chunk grabs Johnny's drink from the coffee table.
But that's my hot chocolate!
Chunk gets into the lift.
Traitor!
Oof. Flint shakes his head and sits in a heap on the couch, arms folded, followed by Johnny, who staggers over beside him, clutching his stomach. They both stare out the window at the statue's butt. Beep cleans muesli from the floor.
Catchphrase.
Scene 11. Interior Science Lab, Presidential Palace, night. The science lab in the Presidential Palace is full of bubbling concoctions and screens. President Messiah Fartypants is shouting at Science Officer Cowrie Burton while pointing at the holotable that Nonk is controlling. It shows a graph with a downward trend.
Just look at these figures! We're down to 80% of last year's harvest!
We can only extract the aura this moon vents out.
That's not good enough! Nonk, let me handle this. That's not good enough. If you don't find a way to increase output before my patience runs out, I'll report your father's existence to the Observer.
But they'll vaporize him. He's your oldest friend.
He was going to die, remember? It was only through my generosity that I allowed you to meld him into this abomination in the first place.
Professor Benji Burton, the cyborg, the father of Cowrie, melded with a science droid, walks down the stairs from the mezzanine level.
Generosity is a strong word, Messiah. And how are you coming along with the eternity synthesis? You've only had 40 flirking years to figure it out. As I've explained, the Zoochastra formula contains elements not listed in the periodic table. Well then, make them out of quarks or something. You know we don't have that technology in this lab. What do you need?
700 years ago, this habitation had a quantum fabricator. With that device, it would have been possible to create our own elements.
The one that was destroyed in the uprising? We'll fix it!
It was completely vaporized, Your Excellency. You remember?
Did I ask you to speak, Nonk?
No, Your Excellency.
Are you a scientist?
No, Your Excellency.
Nonk!
Who's there?
An idiot!
An idiot who?
Shut up!
He's right, it's God.
Well then make another one!
I never used that device or scanned the interior workings. I have not been programmed to build one.
Well, how about one of the other hunks of metal in Cassini? Surely one of them must have a scan in their memory chips.
That is possible.
Well, then ask them.
Transmitting. Receiving. Information collected. None of the 487 droids within the Megadome have the blueprints.
We have more droids than that.
Most of the surviving science droids were reassigned as floor monitors for the prison towers after the uprising, Your Excellency.
I know that. How many are left? Did you forget to ask them, Burton? You're holding out on me.
The shield prevents wireless communication.
Well, then turn the shields off so you can ask them.
This is not a terraformed world, Mr. President.
He prefers Your Excellency. Shut up.
This entire colony would depressurize instantly, and everyone in it would suffocate to death in seconds if they didn't turn into icicles from the negative 200-degree temperatures first.
I knew that. So how do you contact them?
One option would be that I visit the towers personally.
Oh, what a moist idea! The Observer would spot you in the moment you entered a transit tube. And who would get punished for not reporting blasphemy? Me! That's who! The Helios government would tell Zoochastra to cease my eternity supplies in an instant. Do you want me to crumple up and die? I'm 102 years old!
A maintenance worker wheels in a large trolley with a cover over it. Where would you like these, Professor? The Professor looks over, smiling.
Well, please place them against the wall with the others.
The maintenance worker pushes the trolley to the wall. The Professor opens his mouth, shocked. For the first time, we see the world through his droid eyes, with tiny samples of aura, shining white with rainbow halos around the lab, then hidden inside the trolley, an exceptionally large sample, the size of a dog, larger than any sample ever seen. The maintenance worker spots the President and immediately gets on his knees and bows.
Your Majesty, I didn't see you there. How dare you look His Excellency in the eyes, pleb?
Nonk spits.
And you will address him as Your Excellency. No, I prefer what he said. Nonk, let it be known that from now on I shall be known as Your Majesty.
Yes, Your Excellency. Messiah hits Nonk in the back of the head.
What did I just say?
Apologies, Your Majesty.
All right, hurry up, nerds. I haven't got all day.
You could bring all the droids into the Megadome. Then Dad could speak to them.
Yes, fine. Nonk, organize that.
Yes, Your Majesty. Nonk presses a button on his holo bracelet. and the officer in charge of security, Dick Pierce, appears as a hologram.
Bring every droid from every tower to the Megadome, now!
Yes, Your Magnificence. The holo bracelet transmission ends.
Your Magnificence? Yes, Your Majesty? Magnificence? Majesty? No, Nonk, no, Nonk, no! Who's there? I shall be Your Magnificence. You said
From now on, let it be known that I shall be referred to as Your Magnificence.
What shall I be known as?
Who cares? But not that one. That one's mine now.
Yes, Your Magnificence.
Note, family, you will interrogate these droids, find the blueprints for the quantum fabricator, build it, and use it to create the missing elements we need. Then we can fabricate our own eternity serum. Who knows, I might even feel generous enough to share some with you.
Professor Metalmeat doesn't seem to need any.
Yes, maybe you are already quasi-immortal as a blasphemous cyborg, Burton, but your daughter is not. And if you think I will commit blasphemy a second time by allowing her to transition when the time comes, you are gravely mistaken. Increase the yield. Build that fabricator. I can already feel my old war injuries returning to cripple me. Nonk, heal.
Yes, Your Malevolence.
Messiah whacks him.
Magnificence.
They leave. The maintenance worker stands up and walks towards the professors. He holds out a tiara.
Mine has found this in the regolith.
Kari takes it and looks at it in wonder.
Thank you, Dylan.
The maintenance worker bows and exits.
What is this thing?
I don't know, but I think there's someone here who might. The cover on the trolley is pulled back slightly by a small, invisible hand. Scene 12. Interior, living room, night. Beep is alone on the couch, watching his memories of the uprising through the holovision. Giant robots with laser beam eyes cause massive damage to the colony, killing prisoners and science droids alike, whilst Roscoe Starblazer dive rolls around in his protective suit, riding the backs of human-sized battle droids, reprogramming the backs of their heads. With a massive leap, he jumps onto the head of a gigantic battle droid, opens the hatch to its brains, and jumps in. It stops firing on the colonists and turns its attention to the Helios ships that keep landing and destroys them all before looking straight up into the sky and obliterating the observer station, but not before the station fires at the same time, exploding the massive robot from space. Roscoe Starblazer appears to have been fried, but we see him heroically land with a triple flip before heading off to continue his battles on the ground. Chunk and Brace into the cell wearing yellow jumpsuits.
And then, when the fourth guy jumped on top of you, you just smacked him right in the acons and he went flying. You're so strong.
Chunk, you're the biggest guy I've seen on this moon. You shouldn't have to take slop from anyone.
Mama says that sticks and stones will break my bones. I don't remember the last part.
She's right, but they'll break anyone's bones. Show me your fists. Chunk holds out his fists, face down. Brace points to his left fist.
Sticks.
She points to his right fist.
Stones.
Chunk smiles at his fists like he's just won the lottery. Your mama's a wise woman. So what'll you do next time one of these lowlifes calls you a name?
I'll say, hi, I'm Chunk.
No, Chunky. She puts her arm over his shoulder.
You use your sticks and stones to break their bones.
Oh, I get it. But I would never hurt anyone because that's mean.
Hey, it's your life, Chunk. Beep turns off the holovision. How was your first day at work? Brace and Chunk hang up their equipment. Fierce. Brace walks over to the fabricator and presses some buttons on her wrist.
Brace was hectic. She broke the record for the most number of bodies collected in one shift.
Space burger, chocolate shake. The machine prints them in less than a second.
Oh no, we can't print those. Only officers and leaders can have those.
Brace takes her meal to the dining bench. Thanks for the heads up. She takes a bite from her burger and a sip from her milkshake. Chunk looks from the fabricator to Brace and back to the fabricator. He walks over to it.
Space burger, chocolate shake.
Access denied. The elevator door opens and Johnny, dressed in his yellow jumpsuit, steps out carrying his blanket and pillow. So, the Queen finally arrives home. Beep, get off my bed. Beep gets off the couch. Johnny walks over and lays out his pillow and blanket. All right, this is my room now. Everyone out. Lights! The lights don't change. Lights! The lights don't change. Beep! What's wrong with the flirking lights? Lighting permissions for this room have been modified by the administrator. Flirking, great! No toilet, no shower, no mouth station. We're so glad you came to live with us, you clag ball receptacle. Chunk puts his arm over Brace's shoulder, staring at her unbelievable food.
Isn't she great?
No, you slobbering gorilla. She is not great. I had to take a slop in the flirking workers' lavatory earlier. The most disgusting place in the Helios. She's stolen my room, bruised my ribs, and even locked me out of Todd's old room, which is flirking empty. It's not empty. I keep my extra towels in there. Extra towels? Who even needs extra towels? They're probably contraband anyway. There's an easy solution to all of this, Mope. Apologise. Me? Apologise? For what? Your tone. I don't care for it. She takes another bite of her burger. You're the one who just called me a mope. You all heard her. She called me a mope.
Well, you are kind of mopey.
I'm not mopey. I'm flirking Johnny Starblazer for Abba's sake, and I refuse to be treated this way in my own house.
Sell.
Sell!
Brace stops eating. Starblazer?
Yes!
Johnny Starblazer?
What?
You don't happen to be related to that giant metal butt blocking our view of Saturn, do you?
That's his grandfather. Johnny's like royalty, but he still can't get us any space burgers or milkshakes.
Well, Abba flirking Christ. Chunk makes the sign of the disco ball. Right at that moment, red lights flash and sirens blare. This is security. Place your palms flat on the nearest surface. We are entering your cell.
Oh, good. Maybe security will help clear this up.
Brace places her hands on the table. Chunk places his hands on Brace's back. She shrugs him off and scowls.
Sorry.
Chunk holds his hands in the air, trying to figure out where to place them. He runs over to Beep and places his hands on Beep's back. Security 1 and Security 2 enter. Johnny walks over to them and begins pointing at Brace.
I'm so glad you're here. This villain you have so mercilessly dumped on us.
Security 1 and 2 zap him with their obedience wands and he passes out instantly.
Floor monitor.
I am a robot.
I wasn't talking to you, skyscraper.
I was not speaking, it was the robot.
Silence, Donkey Kong, unless you want to end up like your friend here.
Okay.
C582 SSD 4016, you will come with us to the Megadome.
Goodness, the Megadome. I haven't been there in over 40 years. Am I to be dismantled?
Who cares? Come now, President's orders.
Well, Sniff, so long, everyone. Thank you for your kind sniff hospitality. Beep rolls towards the security workers. Chunk, with his hands on Beep's shoulders, walks with him.
Goodbye, old friend. I hope they make you into something nice after your dismemberment.
The security workers activate their wands.
Oi, D-Tower, hands off the robot.
Chunk stops walking, lets go, and hangs his head sadly.
Okay.
Beep exits with security and the entryway closes. The lights go back to normal.
What do you think they'll do to him?
Brace stands, walks over and squats down beside Johnny, holding his head in her hands. So this is Johnny Starblazer. Brace looks up and smiles at Chunk. Jackpot.
Dang, 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 dang,